Hey planty people! So you thought that repotting your plant, giving it enough sun, feeding and watering it was all you have to do? It might be. Plenty of plants are perfectly happy in their little pots just growing away, but some could be happier. Have you ever seen what happens to a pothos or a philodendron if you train it onto a moss pole or a stake? It's amazing, and you're going to want to see, so stick around. Do you have a pair of pruners? It's okay if you don't, because scissors work almost as well, depending on which plants you have. Just make sure to keep them nice and sharp, and clean them with alcohol before and after you use them on your plants. But if you have plants with woody stems like Schefflera, I'd recommend a good pair of bypass pruners, so you don't ruin your good scissors. Why bypass? Because it gives you a clean cut all the way through the stem and doesn't do as much damage as an anvil pruner. Those have a blunt side that the blade closes right onto, so they crush the stem as they cut. Great for cutting deadwood from your hedge, terrible for your philodendron, not to mention overkill. A pair of snips will do the job for most non-woody houseplants too. These are basically just plant scissors, so you don't ruin your good scissors. With their tiny tips, they're also great for delicate work like bonsai pruning or for snipping spent leaves. With bypass pruners, you should always keep the blade side towards the plant. Because the hook side is blunt, it will do a little bit of damage, especially to herbaceous stems like most houseplants have. So you want the clean cut on the side that's still growing. Since snips are two blades that bypass each other, doesn't matter which side is facing the plant. That makes them an excellent choice for chop and prop. However, snips aren't going to cut a big thick monstera stem as efficiently as a pair of bypass pruners. So that's the how. Now on to the why. Why would you want to cut your plants? Well, leaves don't last forever. Eventually you'll have some yellow or brown leaves on your plant, or a leaf will get damaged. If you just leave them there, the plant is expending energy trying to keep them going. You can break them off, but then you run the risk of damaging the plant. It's better to cut them near the stem to give it more energy to make new leaves, which will look better than the spent ones anyway. Maybe you broke a stem, and sad to say it's not coming back. Snipping it off will give the plant more energy. We could all use more of that. You can also prune for aesthetic reasons. I have this marvelous, unstoppable retrofractus fern that puts out a stem that's about 3 feet or longer every spring. I love it, but if I don't keep it under control, it'll take over my entire apartment. And those guys are thorny. I need to be able to get into the bathroom without getting stabbed in the face. So I snip it off. But at its core, apart from the thorns to the face, it's an aesthetic choice. Maybe your lovely Schefflera put out an awkward branch on one side and you'd like the shape to be a bit more neat and tidy. Maybe your philodendron has grown so long it's dragging on the ground and you'd like to propagate it. Bust out the pruners. Since pruning for aesthetics is basically styling, let's talk about styling. And no, I don't mean using a curling iron or a blow dryer on your plants. Just so we're clear, do not use a curling iron or a blow dryer on your plants. They will not appreciate it. Money trees are Pachira aquatica plants that have been braided together. Just like training a climbing plant onto a support or training a bonsai with wire, these are styled into a braid when they're small to make the trunk look cool. This in and of itself is not harmful to the plant, no more than wiring a bonsai. But bonsai wire only stays on the tree for a short time until the training is done. If you have a money tree that hasn't been repotted yet, you should remove the bands that the nursery put around the bottom and the top of the braid so that it's not constricting the trunk as it grows more. I've seen people get very upset about finding bands on their money trees, but it wouldn't be a money tree without them. It would just be a Pachira aquatica. The only harm is in leaving the bands on too long and letting them constrict the trunk. So when you repot, if the braid is tight enough, just cut them off and set that baby free. And speaking of bonsai, that's a styling technique that involves both pruning and training. A tiny plant, before it even qualifies as a tree, is pruned, removing the lower branches and then wiring it to make it look like a miniature mature tree. You eventually even have to prune bonsai roots to keep them from becoming root bound and to keep them small and looking like a miniature tree. Training and pruning bonsai is one of my favorite things to do, and we'll get much deeper into it when I wire the Dawn Redwood this autumn. Styling your plants can also refer to pinching buds. Buds, not butts. Please don't pinch any butts unless you've been invited to. Pinching the buds off the tip of a jade crassula or a phytonia or begonia will make them branch out so you have a fuller plant. In their natural habitat, pothos, philodendron, rhaphidophora, and other aroids are climbers. You already knew that if you watched my soil video. As you can see with my pothos and philodendron, they're perfectly happy as hanging plants. And it's a good thing too, because floor space is as scarce as orchids in the desert around here. However, if you've got the floor or even shelf space for it, try growing them on a moss pole or even just a rough stake. Something amazing will happen. The leaves on my hanging plants are all fairly small and uniform in size, but when they're allowed to climb, pothos, philodendron, and even monstera leaves will get huge. I'm talking several times larger than when they drape. Here's a pothos climbing a tree outside where we recently stayed in Florida. Look at that baby, it's enormous. Moss poles are easy to find in plant shops, and you may not even need to repot the plant. Just stick the base into the soil and attach the plant to it using earth staples, how I styled my rhaphidophora here, or stretch ties or twine. The aerial roots will eventually cling to a moss pole. They won't cling to a cocoa coir pole, but they do still support the plant. With a rough stake, you may have to use actual staples rather than earth staples, but you'll still get those huge leaves and the aerial roots will cling to it. Just make sure the root isn't treated and the surface isn't smooth. Hence, rough stake. So with a pair of pruners, or two, some wire, a trellis, a moss pole, or a stake, you can style your plants to look cooler and grow better than you ever imagined. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, and please like and subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified when I release a new video. You can also find me on Instagram at planty.jen, where I share photos and tips as well. If you'd like to learn more about me, please visit my website at plantyjenstinylandscapes.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Time for that theme song.
If your plants look sad and you lost all hope, tried everything, you're at the end of your rope, should you throw them out into the street? Nope, just ask Planty Jen. If you want to be a planty acolyte, learn the tips and tricks to keep them growing right. Water, fertilizer, and the right amount of light, just ask Planty Jen.